Hey Hofstra fans, welcome inside the WB Mason Coaches Report with Mo Cassara. I'm Anthony Barrett, joined by Mo Cassara, head coach of the Hofstra Pride men's basketball team. Coach, thanks for the time. How are you?
Anthony, thanks. Great. Good morning.
Coach, so last year, we'll look back at the team a little bit. 14-4 in the CAA. You finish in third place in the CAA, exceeding expectations that a lot of people had for your team. What do you think was the biggest key to your team's success?
I think chemistry. I think we were able to really build together off of some of the talented seniors that we had, Charles Jenkins and Greg Washington and Brad Kelleher, and then obviously all the other guys accepted their roles, and I think we got better and better as the year went on. We had great chemistry, and I think really we were playing our best basketball at the end of the year.
And you brought up Charles Jenkins. He graduates all-time leading scorer in program history, two-time CAA Player of the Year, three-time Haggerty Award winner. Name the accolade. Charles probably won it at some point.
Exactly right.
What do you lose in a player like Jenkins?
Well, I think you lose more than just a basketball player. You lose somebody who's the face of the program, maybe even the face of the athletic program over the last several years. A great person, not only on our team, but certainly in the community, our campus and everywhere around Hofstra. So we lose a lot. The leader in title and in spirit. I don't think, as you mentioned already, there's anything he could have done more statistically. So we have to try to reinvent ourselves a little bit. So we've got a lot of new faces, and we're working hard at it.
Now, was it tough to try and get the team to break out of that mentality? Last year, Charles had the ball probably 65% of the time. When it came down to it in crunch time, you knew who was going to take the shot.
Sure.
It was going to be Charles. But this year, you don't have him. So was it tough to try and get people to maybe step up into different roles than they had last year?
I think so. I think anytime you're adjusting roles, it takes time, and I've seen that. I think our staff has seen that here over the beginning of our first month of practice or 3 weeks of practice. So, we had a lot of guys who were really role guys, and now they have to step that role up a little bit, and that doesn't just happen overnight. So we're a little bit of a work in progress that way.
Now, you're starting your second year as head coach here at Hofstra. So what is different from Mo Cassara year one to Mo Cassara year two?
Great question. Last year I don't think there were any expectations. I think everybody was just happy that we had a team and we were able to go out there and play, so myself included. So this year I think there's some expectations. There's some look and some interest in our progress and who some of these new faces are and what's going to be Hofstra basketball moving forward, post Charles Jenkins.
Now you look at the team this year. We'll start out with the guards. Stevie Mejia, he's a URI transfer, had to sit out last year due to NCAA transfer regulations, but now he's your starting point guard, and in practice, you've really showed a lot of confidence in Mejia, saying, run your team, this is your team, you need to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be. Why do you have so much confidence in him?
Well, I think he's a veteran kid, even though he's only played a couple of years of college basketball, and he sat out last year, he was here every day. He's my guy. He's one of the guys that I went out and recruited, that we brought in here to kind of run our team. And he's not Charles Jenkins. He's not going to go out and get 25 points a night. But I think ultimately when he gets comfortable and can understand what we want to do on a daily basis, he'll be able to be an extension of me on the floor. So that's very important to our progression. And that may not happen this week. It may not happen for a couple months. It may not happen until next year. But eventually, I really feel that he's going to be able to be a direct extension of me on the floor. And that's part of our next step.
Now we'll move to two guys whose positions might change a little frequently throughout the course of the year. Mike Moore, he could play the two, play the three. He played the power forward for you a little bit last year, second on the team in rebounds. And Nathaniel Lester, coming off of a serious quad injury last year, medical redshirt, but he's back now as a fifth-year senior. What are you expecting from the two of them?
Well, I think some real leadership on and off the court. Those are both guys who have already graduated. They're in graduate school right now, so they have a little more time during the day to get in and watch film and work on their games, and then ultimately really affect some of our younger guys. So I think leadership, I think they're going to have to play some different roles, but they're both, they've played a lot of college basketball. Now we need them to kind of accept and change their role a little bit on the court.
Front court now, really the only question mark that you don't have is David Imes. Last year he averaged about 8 and 6, started every game for you. He's back this year as a junior now, seems to have gained maybe 10 or 15 pounds in the offseason. After Imes, though, you have Musa Kone, who's a freshman who's really impressed so far, Stephen Waconi, Bryant Crowder. There's a lot of question marks there, so what are you looking for from the front court?
There are a lot of question marks. I think we're still trying to figure that out a little bit. I think week to week we've changed a little bit who we think is going to play a little more and who's not. And each guy has had flashes of being very good and also flashes of a lot to learn. So I think that's going to be a real work in progress, our front court, and we're going to throw a couple different lineups out there, keep looking at what's going to be our most effective lineup. We are going to be able to shift Nat and Mike down to the power forward spot at times and maybe go a little smaller. But David certainly has been a consistent guy. We need him to adapt and change his role. We need him to go from 8 and 6 to maybe double digits in both scoring and rebounding if we really want to be effective.
And one more player, Shemai McClendon. He was one of the best rookies in the conference last year, had some big shots against William & Mary, James Madison. He showed that he was clutch.
Sure.
But he's a little bit kind of reserved, and at times it seems like he doesn't really have that charisma out there on the court yet. Do we think that this is the breakout year where maybe Shemaiah McClendon, we see him put up 14 or 15 points a game?
I think only if the sun shines every day. You know, he's a Florida kid, and he just can't stand this cold weather, so he looks like he's disinterested all the time. No, all kidding aside, he's come a long way. I'm really impressed with his progression, not only as a basketball player, but as a student, as an athlete, and certainly as a part of our team. He's maturing every day and starting to accept his role, and has really done a nice job for us this fall.
He had an exhibition this past weekend against Queens College, Division II team. So technically the regular season doesn't start till this Friday. You were able to beat Queens. What did you think of your team?
I thought we did some good things. I think we have a lot of things to work on. We certainly have not, we don't have everything in yet that we want to do. We're not quite as good as some things I'd like to be able to do, but it was good to get out there and put the uniforms on and be in the locker room and kind of have a dry run at what's going to be our routine here moving forward as we get ready for a very, very good LIU team here on Friday.
Now, it seemed like some of the younger guys had a little bit of trouble adjusting to the system on offense. You run, there's a lot of motion, it's derived a lot from movement. Do you find that high school players or players who haven't played in the flex before take a little bit more time to get used to a system like that?
I think they do, especially when you start playing against another team. I think it takes a little bit of time, and I think our offense is a little behind our defense right now. Although our defense isn't great yet. You know, we're still a little bit of a work in progress on offense and really on defense. But it does take time. It's a learning process. I mean, I've seen a huge jump in, you know, Shemaiah and Dave Imes and Stephen Wilconi and guys who were in this system last year. They're, you know, a little bit ahead of where some of the young guys are.
Now let's look at the schedule a little bit. You brought up LIU on Friday. Winners of the NEC last year. They're preseason favorites in the conference again. NCAA tournament team, Oregon State. You take on URI, a couple of really tough teams, really in the first 7 games of the year. The non-conference slate, everyone always says, is really to get you ready for the CAA slate to be battle-tested. It seems like you've done that with the schedule.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of sleepless nights for me already. I try not to look at that schedule before I try to go to sleep at night. But November is very challenging. I mean, some very good teams. You know, you already mentioned two teams already, and you know we have to play URI at URI. We have to play Cleveland State, who's picked second behind, I think, Butler in the Horizon League, and then BU, who's picked to win their league. I mean, they're really, and not to mention Florida Atlantic, who's coming up here, who beat us last year, who's picked to win their league. So we have a very, very challenging November. You know, hopefully we can fight our way through that and then get ready for December, and then obviously head into the league.
And you look at the CAA this year, the star power not there that it was last year. Jenkins is gone. Chase Allen from Northeastern's gone. Denzel Bowles is gone. And they sent 3 teams to the NCAA tournament.
Sure.
VCU goes on this Final Four run. Naturally, it's going to be a little bit of a down year, but still, the CAA, always a competitive league.
It's really unbelievable. I think, you know, getting back to one of your earlier questions, I mean, the thing I've probably learned most is how good this league really is, how many good teams there are, how many good players there are. You know, William & Mary is playing St. John's tonight. I think it's the first college basketball game tonight. You know, they're a very good team. There's just so many good teams and so many good coaches. So we're anxious to get there, but we obviously have a long way to go before we start CAA play.
And what do you think is going to be the key to success this year for your team?
I think a little bit of what happened last year. I think that chemistry. I think we're going to have to find that chemistry and adjust and adapt some of those roles. And those are things that certainly don't happen overnight. Those things have to take a little bit of a life of their own. And but I like where we are. I like our guys, and I think they're working hard. So you know, it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're obviously anxious to play against somebody else.
Now, in the scrimmage against Queens College, you started Kone and Imes in the front court, and then you had Mejia, Moore, and Lester starting at the other 3 spots. Is that a lineup that we're going to see in the first couple of games, or maybe will we see Shemaiah McClendon slide into the starting lineup?
I think so. I think we could. We're playing around with that a little bit right now. You know, another name we didn't mention is DeJuan McMillan, who actually just had an ankle sprain last week, and we held him out. He should be back to, you know, pretty close to 100%, hopefully by the middle of this week, and that gives us a little more backcourt depth. So we're still toying around with that a little bit. I think some other guys, Brian Crowder gave us a nice lift off the bench. I thought he did some really good things in the second half. So, you know, again, we're going to keep working on it, keep looking at different lineups, and maybe we can play a few more guys than we maybe initially thought we could.
Now, the coaches in the preseason poll picked you to finish 8th. Last year, they picked you to finish 5th. You exceeded expectations. This year, it seems like the talent is there where you could exceed expectations if these question marks turn into some positives.
Right.
So what is your goal for where your team should be at the end of this year?
You know, it's a tough question, but it's a very good question. You know, my goal for us is really midway through December to really playing good basketball. So as we're heading into the holidays and final exams and we get ready for January, we're ready to really compete in our league. And I think we have to win home games in our league. That's a critical thing. And we're going to have to find different ways to win games and certainly go on the road and win games. But I would really like to, at the start of the new year, be playing pretty good basketball.
All right, Coach. Thanks a lot for the time, and look forward to talking to you all season.
Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Hofstra fans, for joining us inside the WB Mason Coaches Report with Mo Cassara.